Welcome to the Church Communications Podcast. We want to help you become a church communications expert. We understand it's a challenging and ever-changing role because we worked in the church too, which is why we built a community of over 30,000 church leaders that are ready to support and cheer you on. Your hosts for the show are Allred, Kenny Jahng, with special guest host from the Church Communications team. They're here to help you and equip you to better reach your community. We'll talk shop with practitioners, professionals, and communications experts about what's working, what's not, and what's next.
Welcome to the Church Communications Podcast. I'm Allred, and I am excited to have Nathan Parikh on the podcast. So Nathan and I, we go way back to like last year, or the year before last. And so Nathan, I'm so glad to have you on the podcast today. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Yeah, I was. We met last year, but I was a relatively early member of the church communications group, so I feel like we go way back, even though we only met last year. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself? Like, I know you serve at a church, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
then you have a lot of other stuff going on. We'd love to hear about all of that.
Sure. Yeah. So, I work at Hallmark Baptist Church. I'm one of the staff pastors there. For years, I was the communications pastor, which is how I got involved in the church communications group and everything there. So I started.
Okay, where is Hallmark Baptist Church?
Good question. It's in Fort Worth, Texas. So we're on the southwest side of Fort Worth. So.
Oh, I didn't know you were in Fort Worth, Texas.
Yeah.
I have friends in Fort Worth, so
awesome.
I need to go and visit them.
Please
so I'll
do. Yeah,
you too.
that'd be awesome. That'd be great. Yeah, so been here for about 10 years, and then came on staff in 2014. And so whenever I first came on staff at Hallmark, I was the first ever communications person they've ever brought on staff, and so that was a really good experience for me because I had to take them basically from zero, kind of from the dark ages, if you will. We kind of were able to go into the future, or the present day at least. So that was a really good experience for me.
Zero to hero.
Yeah. So we didn't have any type of, branding guidelines. We didn't have any type of systems in place for a lot of things. And so I was able to kind of learn as I went with a lot of that, but I was able to kind of really develop a lot of systems for us. And the really cool thing about it now is, so now I'm the discipleship pastor there. That's like my heart long term, is to be more of like a pastoral type role. But over the course of and so like
Wow, what a journey.
Yes.
Now, did you study that seminary?
Yeah, so my undergrad was in pastoral ministries, and then that's why I actually came to Fort Worth, was to go to Southwestern Seminary. So I got my MDiv here, but then I got really plugged into Hallmark, and so I never really envisioned myself starting off with a communications pastor role. But if you want to rewind back a little bit to 2007, back when I was first getting ready to go to college, is when I first started what is still going now, my agency, my web development agency and designs. And so at the time, it was just a way to help pay for school and pay for some bills and stuff like that. But I really got, pretty deep into the world of, WordPress and web development and freelancing and all that kind of stuff. And so a lot of those skills, when I started at Hallmark, they're like, hey, we can use some of this. And so I kind of came in with my early desire was just to do a pastoral type role. But then they're like, hey, we really need a communications person. I was like, well, okay, I'll try that. And so it was really good. It was a really good experience for me. And it was really great though. I mean, it was a lot of solid learning things, and it's something that I'm really passionate about, because the whole reason why I got into web development in the first place was to be able to use that in the context of a church and really begin to understand more of the philosophy and the understanding about how we communicate and why we do it and why it's important and why it matters. I think going forward into my whatever the Lord has for me in future ministry positions, I think it's going to be super helpful. And now it's really cool because one of my interns, I was able to kind of train him and raise him up, and now he's the communications director at our church. And so it's just kind of cool to kind of see that progression. But yeah, so now I'm the discipleship pastor here. I'm kind of over all of our like small groups and Sunday schools and like our Wednesday night adult education, stuff like that. So it's been really good.
Okay, so I know that you realized that there was a very unique problem going on with church websites, and I think this is really neat, that you realized this problem and you came up with a solution. So why don't you tell the people about, it's WP Livestream, correct? Like, he did not ask me to bring this up. I just wanted to bring this up because I think it's really cool. So why don't you just tell people a little bit about why it was created and then what it actually is?
Yeah, I think it's kind of two phases. I think I still run into quite a few churches that, are still struggling just to get caught up, if you will, like understanding the value and importance of a website and why that needs an investment, or understanding why maybe having a live stream isn't for everybody, but not viewing it as like a back door, or where people will not come to your church because of it, but instead they will come to your church because of it. So that's one aspect. I think that's always going to be needed. I think for at least another 10 years for the church world, just to kind of get fully understanding of why this is all really important. But for other churches like mine that are doing it, I think the next step of that is kind of now moving from, okay, now we have a live stream or we have a website, which is great, and we're trying to communicate well with those things, and put out a good first impression for people that are watching us online for a while. But how do we then transition them, or how do we really have an engagement with them online as well, as opposed to just being satisfied with someone's passively watching us, or they're passively browsing our website? Yeah, how do we get them to take that next step, or how do we at least get some type of a conversation going, something like that? And so I kind of attempted that a little bit with our when we really amped up our live stream. Thankfully, right before COVID hit, so we were a little bit of ahead. But we started a like an online host is what we call it, and so like at Hallmark and like most churches that I'm sure are watching, if someone walks into our doors on a Sunday morning, we have a connection team where we have a team of people. They're smiling. They'll shake your hand. They'll show you where to go. Like, they'll answer your questions. But most of the time online, if you hop on or something like that, you're just passively watching and no one really says anything to you, which is understandable. That's normal, but just trying to translate a little bit more of the personal feel to the digital world as well. So like we've been playing around with things like, if you go to our website, there's a little, chat box that pops up, and I'll get those notifications usually, and I'll try to, if someone types something in, I try to be good about hopping on and responding. Same thing with our comments. If nothing else, just give it a like. Just give some type of acknowledgement that like, hey, we see you, And so I think most of people in our group know like we want to reply to like comments on our normal posts on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. But I think a lot of times the live stream aspect of that can be neglected too. Like there's some churches that do really well, like they have a really good online, hosting presence. I think like most churches that are, about Hallmark size, which we're about 400 people or so, I think we're still trying to really develop that flow and that understanding of like people on the digital side also need that personal engagement as well. It's not enough just to put up here's a video, or here's a flat page or whatever.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so for your church specifically, what is your favorite communication channel?
So pre-COVID again, thankfully, but back when I was the communications guy, and before my intern really came on board, like most church positions, I was doing kind of everything myself in regards to like our video stream setup, and so we didn't like have the volunteer team fully developed for like our Sunday morning, video streaming, all of that. So many times it was just me kind of running back and forth. I would, start the stream, I would go man the camera, and I would kind of have to do stuff, all by myself. And so I really wanted to utilize our website because I kind of realized that, most people, if they're searching for a church on Sunday morning, they're not going to land on our YouTube page or our Facebook page where our live stream is. They're going to land on our website. And so I was like, man, I really want to put our live stream on our website. And so I initially was just manually every Sunday copying, the embed code from YouTube or Facebook, and then pasting that into a WordPress page on our website, and that would have to happen, after we're already live. And so I'm there, manning the camera, whatever. I got my phone, my computer on the side. I'm trying to go to the page, copy it, log into WordPress, paste it, update it, clear the cache on the server so that it'll be updated for everyone to see, all that kind of stuff. Like, man, there's got to be an automated way to like make this happen. And so I'm a WordPress guy. I've been developing with that for 15 years at this point. And so like I kind of looked around for a plugin. I didn't really find something that suited my fancy, and so I kind of like hobbled together like a really basic version like for us. And it was kind of cool because that way it took one more thing off of my plate. So every time we went live, it would just auto detect that and put that on our webpage, on our website. And so that was kind of good enough for a little bit. I always kind of wanted to turn that into something other churches could use, but never had the time, it felt like, to make that happen, to develop that. But then, of course, COVID hit. And then once churches started like shutting down, I'm like, holy cow, everyone's live streaming. I got to push this thing out. Hopefully this can be of help. If not now, then it's never going to be helpful. So I really kind of doubled down, while I was doing a crazy amount of video editing, like everyone else probably was in this group during that season. But I kind of really focused in on at least getting like the MVP out. And so basically now it's a product that anyone can purchase and use. And most of my clients or customers are churches that have purchased that. So I mean, it seems to be fitting that niche pretty well, because WordPress is super easy. And so once you connect it to your Facebook page or to your YouTube channel, basically every time you go live, like every Sunday, whenever you're live, it'll just automatically see that you're live, and it'll embed that on whatever web page you want, and then you can just kind of set it and forget it. Yeah. And then the other thing is too, like a lot of times, after service was over, I'd have to go manually delete the embed code, type in another thing that says, hey, we're not live right now, check out something else. But now with the plugin, with WP Livestream, it'll do that for you. And so you can have something that will always show if you're offline. That way people, when they land on that page, it won't just be blank or, an old embed or something like that. It'll be something a little more relevant. And so, yeah, so that's kind of my first vision for it. That's kind of what I'm still kind of like refining, but there's more features that I'd like to add to make it more valuable long term. But yeah, I think our church, we like to use email. Now, all of our people don't love email, I feel like, because a lot of times emails go unread or whatever. But on the whole, I think, and that's also my personal favorite, I think email is probably the most underappreciated communication channel, because like obviously we understand social media is huge, but I think the way Facebook pages work now is just so different than what it used to be back in the day. Like everything that we post on our Facebook page is not going to be seen by everyone who likes our page. It's really shifting more to groups and stuff like that. And the fact of the matter is we still have not like a large chunk, but there's still a decent enough chunk of our people that just aren't engaged on social media, which sometimes when we're in the church comms world, it feels like, well, everyone's on Facebook, everyone's on Instagram, everyone's on all these platforms. And there's a ton of people here for sure, which is why it's important. But like if your church is like mine, and again, I'm like not in the sticks, we're here in Fort Worth. It's a pretty decent sized city. But there's still some people that they just don't really spend much time on it anymore. And so, or they never have, they're just maybe older or whatever. But email is the relatively universal tool. And of course, email can kind of be abused, too. It's like if you just dump everything in every email every time, it just becomes noise. But I think really well done, targeted emails, to me, is still kind of the really main thing that I like to focus on.
Right. Like we want to build relationships. Events are the reason we have announcements, and events are places where people can build relationships. However, we have to figure out a better way of getting that information to the people.
Right. And that's, always going to be a challenge, I think, because, everyone from their respective ministry wants to promote their event, and they want that to be the main thing. So as the comms person, just understanding, okay, we need to have a reason and a vision for what we're doing here besides just a glorified bulletin board where we just kind of throw everything and anything up there. But if someone from our community stumbles upon it and all they see is announcements, like that means nothing to them, that's extremely boring and just ineffective. So the whole goal of this is the relationship with the person behind the screen, for sure.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks, Nathan, for joining us. If you want to download WP Livestream, where do you go? Is it WPLivestream.com?
Yeah, so on Twitter, it's just at Nathan Parikh. I honestly don't post too much on Twitter these days. That's one of my goals, is to start getting more like, it's funny, like as a church comms person, I help our church post more than individually. I don't post that much. But yeah. So Twitter is at Nathan Parikh, and then LinkedIn is just LinkedIn/Nathan Parikh as well. So I try to do some stuff there. That's more of like my agency and business side of things. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at online. So, and then if you go to WPLivestream.com, and you'll see everything right there. So yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Church Communications Podcast. If you want to learn more, join over 30,000 church leaders in our Facebook group at churchcommunications.com/group. If you liked today's episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. It's the most impactful way you can help us reach more church leaders and equip them to better communicate for the church. Finally, don't forget to check out our website at churchcommunications.com. Thanks for listening.